Hey, SKOL, everybody. It's Dave here. And Darren is waiting to come home from his fast pitch softball game. He contacted me about 15 minutes ago, said he was at the top of the seventh, and they were up by 3 runs. So hopefully it doesn't end in a tie, and he will be here shortly. But we're going to find out what a week it's been in Vikingsland this week. It's been that way for everybody, and it started a week ago, as we all know, with the tragic death of Khyree Jackson, and Darren wants to put in his 2 cents over that, and we'll find out how that goes. Then, for our second theme, we're going to do few other things that happened in Vikingsland this week. We've got a few things to talk about there, and then we're going to finish up with what Darren identifies as the 4 key players that need to ball out for the team to be successful in 2024. But first, I want to welcome everybody to the chat. We have Big Railin' Dad. He's way down there. And I have got to I know how to do this. I need to make these a little bit bigger on this scene because they are tiny. Raymond, welcome to the show. Peter, welcome to the show. And we're going to get going here momentarily. Hey, Doc, welcome to the show. I want to welcome everybody, and I hope your weekend is going well. I know it's been a shocking one down here in the States for many, many people. But let's divert ourselves from that and talk some football on 2 Old Bloggers right now. Let's rock! Vikings First and SKOL presents This Week in Vikingsland with Darren and Dave, your 2 Old Bloggers. Hey, everybody, it's Dave here, and Darren is hopefully on the way after winning another fast pitch softball tournament. For those that you don't know, he plays first base now that he's gotten older. And his team's won the last few tournaments, and they're in another big one. Now, as we sit here right now, I'm going to try to readjust this screen so that you just see me and the slideshow. All right, here we go. We titled this one, 4 Vikings Who Need to Ball Out in 2024. Darren has picked 4 players that he's identified that are going to be key to the Vikings' success this season. And not one of them do you see as a quarterback, which is interesting. Now, obviously, the quarterback is going to play a big part of that. No matter which quarterback it is, they're going to play a big, big part of that. Now, normally I start with theme 1, but I'm going to leave that for when Darren gets here, and I'm going to start with theme 2 right now. And here we go. Turn it on. This Week in Vikingsland. That's right. Here we go. Anthony, I love Jimmy Kleinsasser. He's my favorite player, and thank you for noticing that photo sitting behind me. And there's also a cup of Vikings Report with Ted and Drew sitting right in front of it. And it was my good buddy Drewster that got me that signed, autographed photo, because he knows I love Jimmy. Well, this week in Vikingsland's land, we're obviously going to move on from the tragic death of Khyree Jackson. And like I said, Khyree Jackson we're going to talk about in theme 1, but I want to wait for Darren to give his input because he hasn't had the chance. I've had the chance this week. So we're going to wait on that and go to Cam Akers. Where is Cam Akers? Now, this one's an interesting one. At least I think it is. We hear earlier in the week that Cam Akers came across the ESPN transaction list that he has agreed to sign with the Minnesota Vikings pending a physical. All right, that makes sense. Okay, cool. But the fact that it hit that transaction list on ESPN but hasn't hit the NFL's, and there's nothing on the Viking side for it, it makes you go, wonder what in the world's going on. Well, you figure if it's just a physical, we'd have probably heard something by now, right? It's been a week or almost a week. Doesn't take that long to do a physical, at least in my opinion. And they're checking out his Achilles. And I'm sure they're going to run it through an MRI, CAT scan, whatever, and make sure it's all healed that way. And then they're going to poke and prod and test and stick him on some sort of machine that measures strength and all the things they feel necessary to make sure he's healthy and ready to go and be signed as a player. That makes sense to me. They value him that much that they want to do that. And cool, right? If he's better than some of the lower end guys in the running back room, by all means. And last year we saw some bright things from him. But then he got injured again, right? He's coming off 2 Achilles injuries, as we all know. Well, we'll see. Now, Darren Woodson was the one that confirmed that this transaction is indeed in place pending the physical. Okay. Good. When's the physical? Are they going to say, hey, you're good as soon as you pass the physical, whether that's last week or whether that's in November? I have no idea. That's what has fans going, why? Why is this taking so long? Why is it announced one way but not another? We don't know. Cam was good in his limited amount of playing time. Now, this week, Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings, friend of the show, by the way. I like Luke very, very much. Hey there, Rap. Welcome to the show. Luke went on to talk about how Akers may be recovering from his Achilles and isn't ready for his physical yet. That gets me, is it between last week and November? When is this time period that he's supposed to pass the physical? We don't know. And it's interesting to find out. Now, not many players, a blown Achilles used to be a death sentence. Now, over the last 10, 15, 20 years, orthopedic medicine has gotten so much better that these players are coming back so much quicker and they're playing effectively. It's not been a death sentence, a career death sentence for him. But very rarely do you blow both Achilles, one year and one the next. And he talks about how a lot of that is if you're unbalanced, one's stronger than the other one. And we've seen this with hamstrings. There's Watson, the young receiver up at that team from Wisconsin that whines because he keeps popping his hammy. And they're saying, well, you've got to be equal on both sides. Well, the same goes for the Achilles. It's hooked to your calf muscle. Those muscles have to be equally as strong, equally size-wise, so that everything is equal and you're not favoring one or the other, putting undue pressure on one or the other, causing the injury. Hey, Scottish Bear, welcome to the show. Glad you're joining me over here, and I see that, yes, you are a Bears fan. And, of course, for Bears fans, we always have this.
The Bears.
Okay. Now, you have your savior. We'll see how that goes. We'll find out. Ergo, could we trade Scene for a cornerback since the misfortune of Kyrie? Anything's up in the air. That's up to Kwesi. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah wants to make the trade. By all means. I don't know how many people are going to want him. He's got to go to a team that plays the Fangio style, but we'll find out. I just don't know. I would like to see that, yes. And, of course, there's the rumors of trading for Lattimore down in the Saints, former Pro Bowl cornerback who's still relatively young but coming off injury. That would be an interesting one. And if that happens, we'll go live on Vikings First and SKOL to talk about it, probably just me and Tyler, but we'll do that. We're sort of prepping for that as one of the things that may happen in this upcoming week. We'll find out. There's a few things. There's possible Lattimore coming. If they do that trade, like being rumored, being negotiated. And there's also our two rookies signing their contracts that haven't yet, and that's Dallas Turner and, of course, J.J. McCarthy, the future quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. We'll find out. I don't know. It's going to be interesting how all that plays out. But back to Luke Braun. And I want to congratulate him once again, if I haven't done it publicly already, on his marriage to his longtime girlfriend. That's a good thing. He and the Rabbits are now official. And I wish him all the best and many, many blessings for Luke. Now, what he's talking about, though, is why are the Vikings doing this? They've already signed Aaron Jones, as we know. And we expect Aaron Jones to take the lion's share of the snaps this year and to improve our pretty pathetic running game from last year. And it was. It's pretty interesting. Anthony, yes, we're short picks for the next 2 years, but it may not require picks. It may just be money. We'll find out how that goes. But we've got Aaron Jones, and he's going to probably take 75% of all snaps. I'm suspecting 15 to 25 a game. The only time he comes out is for 2 scheduled series to give a rest and Ty Chandler take the most. Okay, could happen. I suspect that's the way it's going to be played, and I expect our run game to be much better. And I expect our run game to be focused on early in the season as well. We'll see how that goes. I hope it goes well. Now, how does Cam Akers, if he passes his physical, fit into all of that? As I said, Ty Chandler's our number 2 back. Okay, cool. Ty Chandler most likely is the one spelling Aaron Jones. Well, where would Cam Akers fit? Cam Akers, to me, if he comes in and he's back up to 100%, is competing with Ty Chandler. Now, Cam Akers is only 25 years old. He's not that old, and he obviously doesn't have a super amount of tread worn off because he's been injured. We'll see how that goes. But he would, in my opinion, he'd be battling Ty Chandler for that spot. Now, is he good to have if Aaron Rodgers or Ty Chandler goes down? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Because I do believe when he's healthy and playing, he's better than the alternative that we have. And the alternative that we have includes Myles Gaskins, Kene Nwangwu, and Dwayne McBride. That's it. We didn't get any UDFAs, and we didn't draft any running backs. So that's it. We're going with guys that have been there just a little bit, but they haven't made the grade. Now, Kene obviously does as a kick returner and has as a kick returner, but he has not made the grade as a running back. He seems to have vision problems, and he likes more open, more space. Well, if we're mixing in a little power gap football and going that way, You got to be disciplined to hit the hole, but also be able to see any cutback holes that open up. And Kenny doesn't seem to fall into that category as of yet. Now, everybody can take a chance and progress. Anthony said he'd give McBride a chance. McBride's another one. We knew with him coming out because of his low-level competition, he needed to develop as well. And who knows? It may happen. We'll find out. I have to take a drink every once in a while because my throat gets hammered. Speaking of hammered, for those that will ask, I'm drinking a bottom shelf whiskey mixed with Dr. Pepper Zero. Why mixing it with Dr. Pepper Zero? Because it's a bottom shelf whiskey. It's not a great sipper. We will find out. And Big Rail and Dad, you are absolutely correct. Guys on cut down days will be there that somebody might be able to snag up. If the Vikings see somebody get cut from another team, they may go, better than Gaskins, better than McBride. And those guys get cut and they grab that new guy. We'll all have to wait till that plays out. Now, it's different than it used to be because last year was the first year they went to the all-at-one cut. They're going to do the all-at-one cut this year, and it makes it a scramble versus when they had two cuts. But we'll find out. It's going to be interesting. Anthony says, instead of letting McBride ride the practice squad bench, let him do something in the preseason. All the back end roster guys are going to be playing in the preseason, Anthony. That's what they rarely play the starters. It's mostly the back end guys that are going to get some time, and we'll evaluate them that way. Hey there, Anthony. Cheers to you, my friend. Cheers to you. But it's going to be up to Cam Akers passing that physical, and whenever that happens, your guess is as good as mine. None of my sources have been able to tell me squat. They don't know. So who knows? And speaking of sources, back in the day, I had some real good ones. Right now, not so much. Why? Because the Minnesota Vikings have locked down a lot of their personnel and what they do and how they communicate. And if they let something out and some old blogger like me reports on it, they can get in a lot of trouble. So I generally do not get as much information as I used to in years past, and that's a shame. But I understand operational security and the desire for it, very much so. But hey, that's just me doing a little bit of whining. We'll find out. Anthony, he might take the leap next year. I don't know. We all don't know. See, that's part of watching football. You're looking for signs that a young player, a young talented player, is making progress in their development and that they show the absolute pro level attributes that could make them good. And you hope that happens. And there is developmental times, especially for different positions, that you hope that happens. Generally, though, with running backs, it's quick. And there's some rookies that come out and absolutely ball. And if you're not a rookie and you're in your second year and you're hoping your third year will do it, flags are going up when it comes to the running back position. But that's my opinion. You could have yours. We'll find out. Yes, Big Rail and Dad, we're a little short on the running back position, wealth-wise, but we're strong in others, like you said, tight end. Safety's another one that we're just jam-packed with good quality. SKOL, Daniel, welcome to the show. Now, the next segment that Darren wanted to talk about this week in Vikingsland is the fact that it's sneaking up on us. It's been quiet. It's been stalking in the woods. We've all talked about going out to the lake and going fishing, going camping, how bad the mosquitoes are this year, enjoying a round of golf maybe or two. But training camp is just 1 week away. And it's starting for other teams this week, different parts of this week. But for your Minnesota Vikings, the rookies report next Sunday. When we're doing the next 2 old bloggers, the rookies will have showed up. That, of course, includes J.J. McCarthy, hopefully, Dallas Turner, hopefully, and all the rest of the rookie class that has already signed. And we'll see them, which is cool as shit. Can't wait. It's been a long summer. It's been eventful. We haven't resorted to who's on your Mount Rushmore for this and what's my top 100 list of that. Thankfully. But it's going to be fun to finally get some real news out of Egan and reporting, hey, this happened today, that happened today, this happened today, that happened today. Because when everybody reports, the press is allowed to go. Now, the vets report on Tuesday, the 23rd. And you got to remember, these days, they may do a walk around or something like that in the afternoon, but most of them's checking in, make sure all their iPads up to date with the latest security software and all that stuff. And they've got the latest playbook, and they're doing things like that, making sure they've gone through all their HR training and whatever else normal people would do when they join come back to the job after an absence. Now, hey, Norsefius, welcome to the show. Now, I'm sure one of the things they're going to do come next Sunday is they're going to talk about Khyree Jackson amongst the team. Kevin O'Connell will have to sit them down, especially the rookies, because he's part of their class, if you want to call it that. But I think the whole team, they'll be doing stuff, but we'll find out. Timothy, you wonder if Scene would be better served as a better corner? Not so sure. I was thinking more when it comes to Scene, he's more a hybrid linebacker type. But he's got to be able to digest everything mentally. And from what I gather, that's the issue, that he just doesn't get the playbook. And you would think somebody that's played football for forever, even though the NFL playbook is a step up, they still would be able to do that, but I guess that's not what's happening from what I'm hearing. Why are the Vikings playing games on JJ's bonus? Get the kids signed already. Yes. I don't think they're playing games. I think this is just coming down to the normal right before camp thing. We did if you watched Who Will Be King, the NFC North Roundup, done for Fans First Sports Network, where I'm the Vikings rep. Our Bears rep, Pay, did a research deal on when do these rookies normally sign. Most of them, it's towards the end of July, right before camp, or right as camp starts, for most of them. Some do it in the spring, shortly after the draft, but most of your top-end rookies, it's right before training camp kicks off. So we'll find out. Too evil to hope. You heard a prediction the Vikings would only win 4 games this season. I've heard that too. I think it's a joke, and I laugh at it, but we'll find out. Oh, I know why. Darren, if you're watching, that's my fault. Darren says, just go solo. The link isn't working. Oh, it's because I had it set on the wrong thing. We'll find out. Let's see. That didn't work. We'll go here. Darren's home, obviously. So that is it. Last minute as usual. Darren is, like I said, was busy. And here he comes. He's in the green room, and I'm going to bring him on in. Put this back to here. Boom. And there we have the man, the myth, the legend, the softball king, Darren Campbell. How are you doing, Darren?
Doing okay.
Did you win? That's the question.
We did win, so we play again at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time for all the marbles.
Boo-hoo! So we got to be done by 6 Mountain. We'll be done by 6 Mountain. That's easy.
Got to be done before that.
Now, I started with theme 2 first because I know you wanted to talk about Khyree Jackson. We just finished up the portion where we're talking about training camp and how we have the dates up there right now. They open up to the public on the 27th. That's when you can take your kids, go see the players practice. Tyler's going to be there for sure. I know on some of those. Luke will probably make his trip up there to be there. We'll find out. Anthony McDaniel's hot take your Darnold defender. I see him leading to the Vikings to at least 10 wins. It could happen. I'm not saying it's not going to. It could. There could be. We're hoping Kevin O'Connell is the quarterback guru, not only for J.J. McCarthy in the future, because J.J. is the future, but for Sam Darnold right now. And Sam wants him to be. Sam wants to succeed because that'll mean a bigger paycheck for Sam come 2025. It'll be great for the Vikings, and it'll be great for Sam. It's a win-win situation if it happens.
Question for you, Dave, and for everybody else. Let's say you're Sam Darnold, and we've talked on the show about how this is the best situation he's ever been in, blah, 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 which it is. And let's say he replays really, really well, which I hope is the case, even though I've said on this show I'm not expecting it. But if it happens, that it's great. If you're Darnold and looking at what happened to you when you came into the league with the situation there, and then you have your best year with a team that's got the best wide receiver in the NFL and a pretty good number 2 and Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler and TJ Hawkinson eventually, okay, you know you're going to get more money, but do you really want to look at just money? I think you have to look at the situation that you could be going in. Now, sometimes you don't have beggars can't be choosers, right? Like sometimes you're not going to get an offer from like the San Francisco 49ers as they've already got quarterback. But I think if I'm Darnold, I'm like, I might take a little less to get in a situation where I've got more weapons to work with, like I did in Minnesota, where I just had that pretty good year, as opposed to taking the biggest contract you get. You go to a team that is not really well stocked on the offensive side of the ball, and then you struggle again because not so much your fault, but because you've got nobody to play with. I don't know.
Right. And they've got a defensive head coach that doesn't help you, and their facilities are garbage, and you have to pay for your own food and all. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense to me that somebody might want to stay because of what is here, right? And take a pay cut. Tom Brady took years and years worth of pay cuts because he wanted to make sure his offensive line was built up and certain other components of his team. He understood that. And he only left when things got rough with Bill Belichick. But could a quarterback do that? Absolutely. Will it happen? We'll have to see. I still think it's a win-win. If he balls out and plays well, it's great for the Vikings and it's great for Sam.
Yes.
And then we'll have a decision afterwards. We'll find out. But I fully expect that if he doesn't play well, we're going to see J.J. McCarthy sooner than later. And J.J. McCarthy is the future of the Minnesota Vikings. Unless something horrible happens between now and then, and he just loses it, doesn't know how to play football, which I doubt is going to happen, he's going to go out there and be a star himself. So we're going to find out. That's what's cool about this time of year. We don't know. So, and it's, we're taking the best information we have and the best experiences we have, and we're trying to apply it and see, look into Mike Zimmer's crystal ball and see what happens. And, well, it's fun to speculate about.
And I don't know about anybody else, but training camp kind of snuck up on me a little bit because OTAs were done, and then we knew that we had that 4 or 5 week break, but now we're almost there. And all kinds of it's going to be a fascinating training camp just because of the Darnold situation. How is he going to do everything that JJ McCarthy does, from breathing to walking to taking a drink from a Gatorade it's all going to be scrutinized. Everything how he does is going to be a daily update from anybody who covers the Vikings. We're going to be very interested in it. How is Dallas Turner is he going to really flash? How is Aaron Jones going to fit into the new offense in a new situation with a new offensive line, cornerback situation, kicker situation? Yeah, just all kinds of. Is TJ Hawkinson? He's going to be on the physically unable to perform list, but how is he progressing? Is Andrew Van Ginkel, who's got that Lisfranc injury right now, will he be started on the pup? And how long is he going to be out? And I think that he's going to be a key player. We don't want him to be out long. So lots of questions.
We don't want either of those two to be out long.
No, lots of questions to the Vikings this year in like a big year. And we're going to, again, how is the defense going to progress, evolve under Brian Flores in year 2? Is he going to use more man coverage, more press coverage? Like there's rumors that he is going to, after last year not doing it very much at all. How are the pressure situation going to work with the new personnel that he has, like Andrew Van Ginkel, like Dallas Turner, like Jonathan Grenard? So all kinds of questions about the Vikings, and training camp is where we start to get some of those answers start trickling in. Along with preseason. So really exciting time for all football fans, but for Viking fans, because this is such a new thing. We're starting over at quarterback. Daniil Hunter is a long-time Viking stud, is no longer with us. So a lot of changes, and we're going to find out if they're good changes or not so good changes, or maybe a little of both.
Yep. And we were hoping Khyree Jackson would be part of that, because he's the type that fits Flores great, but alas, that's not to be. Now, more things happening in Vikingsland this week. As all our viewers know, Receiver came out this week.
It did Wednesday, I think. Netflix debuted it. I have not seen it yet. Much like last year with Quarterback, I didn't watch that, I think, until it had been out a couple of weeks. And Dave, you told me, Darren, you got to watch Quarterback. It is really, really good. Even if you're not a big Kirk Cousins fan, you got to watch it. It's fascinating. I did watch it. My wife watched it with me. She liked it. She was more interested in Mahomes than Cousins. but I really enjoyed Quarterback, and it really gave me a new appreciation for Kirk Cousins. I know this is the players get to decide what it gets in there and all that sort of stuff, but it did show the work that's involved in being an NFL quarterback and what Kirk Cousins did to prepare his body and his mind to play quarterback at that level. So I thought it was really great, and really looking forward to seeing on the receiver side, what do guys like Justin Jefferson and Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I wish would go to hell because he kills us. But I think it's going to be really fascinating. I think you
probably won't think that after you watch it. Amon-Ra St. Brown is probably one of the biggest stars of this year's show, and you can't help but admire him. When you get through this, it's just, he's that good. Now, I've watched all 8 episodes. Your wife is going to very much enjoy this version of Wide Receivers. They have all the wives and the girlfriends involved. They've got all that. They also have a little bit of Kirk Cousins in there as well. We'll see. But as Vikings fans, we care about Justin Jefferson, right? And Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the NFL, bar none. And you'll get in there and you'll see the love affair between Davante Adams and Justin Jefferson. They've got man crushes on each other. You'll find that out. Cool. Wants to be that way. That's fine. JJ, it does the whole season all the way through to the end, and how he came back after playing basically 9.5 games and still got over 1,000 yards. Talks about not only his hammy that was pulled, and how the rehab went through that and how it's important that they're equal and all that sort of stuff. And then, of course, he gets injured 12 plays later again.
Yeah.
And how that was almost deadly. But it goes through, and you get to meet you get to see the special relationship these two have together. He and Kevin O'Connell they bond. They're two of a kind. They're almost like besties, and which is cool. And you get to see how he takes over a leadership role. Kevin sort of pushes him that way, and you see that from the beginning. We don't see Justin focused on until the second episode, but you see Kevin O'Connell yelling at the team after the second loss. And he's channeling his inner Mike Zimmer. And which is sort of cool, but you see how the maturity of JJ throughout the season. And it's just way too cool. And it takes it not through just the season, but through into the spring through the photo shoot of our new whiteout uniforms and signing of his contract for him and Amon-Ra St. Brown. They both do.
Yes, they both cashed in big time on the off seasons.
They picked a great bunch of people to focus on. There wasn't a dud in the bunch. You got Deebo Samuel, all the stuff he went through, and that'll take your heart out because he went through a lot too. You've got, Kittle. You're going to love Kittle. And man, does he love football. And I'm sure you saw the clip where he got hit in the nuts by
Hitman.
Hitman. Well, he's talking to Hitman on the way back as they're walking to the sidelines. He goes, you dick, you hit me in my dick. Types hit. And Hitman just deadpans. Well, hit big, small target. Keeps walking.
Yeah.
You're a dick. Hitman's laughing. I think it's funny.
Yeah.
Hey, it is what it is. It's well worth the watch. If folks, fans there, hopefully I didn't spoil anything for you. I don't think so. But go watch it. It's an enjoyable watch. At least have on the background, and then when JJ comes up, watch the JJ portions of it. But the whole thing is great. And you see their families and their parents and siblings. And JJ is raised well. You like his family. It's very competitive, but he's normal. And you got to love him. I'm so glad the Minnesota Vikings have locked him up for a long time. And because obviously the best. And hopefully this year he takes a step further and hopefully he'll be the first wide receiver to reach 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
And he very well could be. But we'll find out.
We will.
But that brings us to the end of theme 2. If I remember correctly, Chris Carter's is in there talking about him too. So you want to watch. It's good. It's really, really good.
I will be.
So we'll end theme 2. And now we'll go back to turn this off, theme 1. Get you all excited. Now we're going to take you down.
Yeah.
Hey, it is what it is. Of course, hit the right button, Dave. This is the section where you get to talk about the death of Khyree Jackson. I've spoken my piece numerous times this week. Now's your shot.
Yeah, of course, we say it on the show all the time, Dave. Once OTAs end and you get to training camp, you don't want any news about the Vikings because it's usually bad stuff. And this is as bad as it could get because we learned just over a week ago that Khyree Jackson had died in a bad car accident, 2 other vehicles involved. 2 of the other passengers in his vehicle also died, including Kyrie. Police believe that alcohol and speed may have been a factor. And if you look at I don't know if Kyrie had a seatbelt on at the time, but
Does it matter? You're looking at the picture of the wreckage. It's a seatbelt's not going to matter at that point.
The videos I saw of all of the vehicles that were involved, they were almost pretty completely obliterated. So it was really, really bad. And so, a terrible situation for Khyree Jackson's family, for the Vikings themselves, and to all bloggers. Our hearts go out to his family and the Minnesota Vikings organization for what has transpired and what they're going through right now. Now, maybe a bit too soon, but I did want to talk about, as tragic as this is what impact is this going to have on the Minnesota Vikings in 2024? And, death like this, it's got to hit hard. And if people remember, Viking fans remember 2001, when Korey Stringer died in training camp because of untreated heat stroke. Now, at that point in time, like, the Vikings never really seemed to recover after that happened. And they were an NFC championship team the year before. Sure, they got donutted, but they got 11-5. And then Korey Stringer has a tragic heat stroke, untreated heat stroke. He dies in training camp. And that just seemed to take the life out of the Vikings from the get-go. They go 5-11 that year, go through a bunch of quarterbacks. Dennis Green ends up either getting forced out or resigns after over a decade as our head coach. He's gone, just a whole bunch of turmoil. And we don't know what impact Korey Stringer's death had on that Vikings team, but we know that he was a loved teammate, very highly respected veteran. Randy Moss cried at the press conference that they had when they announced that. And that Randy Moss was a guy who didn't show a lot of that kind of emotion at that time. So I think it did have a big impact. My question is, how are the Vikings going to react to the Khyree Jackson tragedy right now? Bit of a different situation, I think, Dave, because Khyree Jackson had only been a Viking for 3 months. His teammates might not know him very well. He was not a respected longtime Viking veteran like Korey Stringer, but I still think that how it happened and just the circumstances, it's not something that it's got to have an impact on the team. And I wonder how the Vikings are going to react in a year again where there's lots of changes here and lots of uncertainty with the Vikings starting over at quarterback. Again, Daniil Hunter, a longtime veteran, isn't around anymore. You're starting over in other positions. So this is not the kind of thing that you want to start your training camp with. And so that's my question. How are the Vikings going to react to this? I feel it can usually go one or two ways. It really just brings you down and is just a life sucker for you, or the team rallies around the memory of Khyree Jackson and plays, punches above its weight. So we'll have to see how that goes, but this is not a great start to training camp. I think on the field wise, Khyree Jackson, what kind of impact is that going to have on the Vikings defense in particular? With Khyree Jackson's size, 6'4", the long arms, that he was really strong in press coverage, and Brian Flores was reportedly going to use more press coverage this year. I think I was excited to see what Khyree Jackson, how he was going to progress. But I also do feel that I wasn't banking on him being a major contributor for the Vikings this year. He's a 4th-round draft pick, Dave, not a first-rounder. There was never any talk about that he was going to get pushed on the field immediately.
But there was talk that they did expect him to get some snaps this year, to be a contributor, whether it be rotational or whatever, as he develops, and that he had all the tools to develop into that premier corner that Brian Flores loves, and then we got him as a steal in the 4th round.
Yeah. Khyree Jackson told the Vikings that they got the best cornerback in the draft when they drafted him. But the scouting reports that I read on him had said that he probably needed a year of seasoning. He'd only started one full year at college, and that was at Oregon. Didn't really play at all at Alabama and was at JUCO before that. So it would have been a surprise to me if he was going to be a contributor, even though the Vikings were hoping he would. So I don't think that Khyree Jackson was going to be a major contributor to the Vikings defense. So maybe on the field right now, his loss won't be felt, terribly as some other corners, whether it be Byron Murphy Jr. if you didn't have him. But it does have ramifications down the line and on the roster. I think depth wise, it saps our depth at cornerback, which I was already concerned about, and I think it does change the outlook for Andrew Booth Jr. and a Caleb Evans. We talked about how both of them, one of them, maybe both, would be trade bait at the end of preseason because you brought in Khyree Jackson, and those two guys have not really shown that they can be quality NFL players, particularly Andrew Booth. Well, now that you don't have Khyree Jackson around, I think that their roster spot might be a little safer, depending on how they do in training camp. And I don't think that the Vikings can really afford to be looking at trading one of them for a low-round draft pick at this point, because your depth has been hit because Khyree Jackson is no longer with us. And long-term down the road, I think this is also has an impact on the Vikings cornerback room because, Khyree Jackson, like you said, a lot of potential, great size, an unreal size for a cornerback, a lot of potential. The Vikings were quite speed. Yeah, had the speed. If he wasn't ready to contribute in 2024, there certainly was the expectation he would be, I think, in 2025. And the Vikings right now, you look at them, Shaq Griffin is only signed to a 1-year deal. Byron Murphy was signed to a 2-year deal. His contract voids on February something in 2025. He'll be a free agent unless the Vikings were to re-sign him. And then after, again, we talked about Andrew Booth Jr. and a Caleb Evans. They really haven't shown they can be quality NFL players. Do they deserve a roster spot beyond in 2024 or even beyond that? So
they're under contract, but
they are until 2026. But do the Vikings feel that they're worth keeping around? Khyree Jackson would have been around in 2025 for sure. And again, without him being there, I think this is going to make cornerback in 2025. Once again, cornerback is going to be a big focus for the Vikings in free agency and potentially in the draft, where we're going to have to potentially draft a cornerback early. And of course, right now we don't have a whole lot of draft picks.
Right. So, and we wanted to focus on other needs like interior defensive line, possibly an offensive lineman. Not that he's going in the first. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, and yeah, it's just it's got some ramifications beyond just the now, Dave, and so that is really creates a lot of uncertainty at cornerback. I think beyond maybe not so much now, but certainly beyond 2025. Now, potentially, it does open up some opportunity. Like if Dwight McLaughlin, the undrafted rookie free agent from this year. Some people are high on him. I've heard good things. Maybe he emerges and he kind of inserts himself into the Vikings cornerback room conversation with how he plays in training camp and preseason and makes up for the loss of Khyree Jackson. Or potentially maybe Jalen Williams, who got a few snaps at the end of last year, got brought up from the practice squad, didn't play badly last preseason. Maybe the second year, he's the guy, the unplucked gem, the unpolished gem from that we aren't expecting, that adds a bit of depth to the cornerback room and makes up for the Khyree Jackson's death. But just again, like I said earlier, it creates a kind of topsy-turvy situation with the Vikings cornerback room, and certainly not the thing that the Vikings want to be dealing with right at the beginning of the training camp. And of course, they're going to Kevin O'Connell, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, all the players are going to get asked about it early on, and it's just it's not. It's a tough situation all around, off the field, on the field.
Yeah, and it's going to be Kevin O'Connell's biggest test.
Yeah,
on how he does this. I talked before you came on about how one of the rumors that's going around and the reports going around are the Vikings are in negotiations for a trade for Lattimore out of the Saints as a possible corner. We'll see how that goes and how much that would cost.
Yeah.
Both teams, we'll see. But we'll find out.
Are the Vikings in a position right now where they feel that Lattimore would put them over the top?
Maybe. It's possible on the defensive side at corner, because he was an all-pro. You know, I think it's the last 2 seasons he's both had injuries. We'll find out. I want to say hello to Gary. Thank you for joining us there, Mr. Gary. Glad to have you. As always, my friend and my brother.
Glad to have everybody.
Yeah, glad to have everybody. Mary's here, of course. The queen of Vikingsland, Miss Mary. All right, so we've done theme 2, then theme 1, and now it's time for theme 3. This is what we named the show after. If I hit the freaking right buttons. Folks, if you could see my control panel and how small the font is, getting old, we will get going. All right. This one, 4 players. You've identified 4 players that are going to need to ball out to be the key to the 2024 season.
Yeah, Dave, we know that clearly Sam Darnold and or J.J. McCarthy, they're going to have to really ball out, play well if the Vikings are going to be a factor in 2024 and to get to return to the playoffs and be a factor in the playoffs and be a factor to challenge for an NFC championship. Obviously, Justin Jefferson is going to have to continue to be all world for that to, for those 2 guys to play well, or either whoever ends up being starting quarterback or if both of them do at some point in time, Justin Jefferson will have to be all world in order for the Vikings to have any chance of to play well. But there's other guys I think that also are key to the Vikings. I think having a season that is goes up beyond the expectations that we're seeing from a lot of the quote unquote experts out there who don't think very much about the Vikings' chances in 2024, and very interested to see what other people who are watching the show, who their kind of players they think need to really ball out in 2024. But here are my 4. First one, Jonathan Grenard, edge rusher. Now, he's basically the Vikings decided to swap out him for Danielle Hunter. Now, so that's a big swap out. You can say all you want about Danielle Hunter and the pass rush win metrics or his run defense metrics that ESPN or PFF had on him in some cases had him ranking much lower than what his production would suggest. But he got home on the quarterback 16.5 times in 2024. That is going to be difficult to replace. And it's Jonathan Grenard who's going to be looked at as the guy to, for the most part, replace that. Now, Jonathan Grenard was excellent last year in 2023. Two of his previous 3 years, one was cut short he had a lot of injury problems, and the other one was his rookie year where he didn't really do much. His second year, he got 8 sacks, so that was pretty strong for a second-year player. But, hey, man, if the Vikings defense is going to be putting pressure on the quarterback, they sign this guy to be the big dog to do that. And so he's got to be 2023 Jonathan Grenard for the Vikings in 2024 for this defense to perform at the level that we want it to. And if he doesn't, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Andrew Van Ginkel and Dallas Turner, and then Pat Jones, who right now, the third, who's right now would be your 4th edge rusher, I think, amongst the group. So again, I don't think to me, I can't state enough how important Jonathan Grenard in playing as well as he's capable of playing, that he needs to do that for this Vikings defense and the pass rush and the defense to be as good as it needs to be in 2024. Considering we think the offense might not be quite as productive, at least initially, as we're used to. I think, that's important. So that's the one guy.
Now, hold on. Before you continue to the next one, Big Rail and Dad did post his 4 most players that the Vikings need. And it's Tillery on the D-line, Turner on the D-line, the rookie, obviously Dallas Turner, Blake Brandel at left guard, and Powell at wide receiver. Those are good selections.
Yes, they are. I'm going to put out my rationale. Really, when you look at it, all 22 guys on offense and defense have to play well for the Vikings to do well.
3 more on special teams,
That's
or
right.
5 more. Yeah.
So Grenard's number one. I think the second guy is
Gary's favorite.
Is
Professional nasty.
The second guy, I think, is Ed Ingram. Vikings are fine, more than fine at the tackle position on offensive line. We've said that on many shows. Brian O'Neill, Christian Darrisaw, not much to worry about there. But the interior has been the weak spot. And if you look at the interior, of course, Garrett Bradbury going into his 6th season, I think at this point, Garrett Bradbury is what he is, which is an average center. And he's got his strengths and his weaknesses, and we haven't really seen much improvement in his 5 previous seasons. So I think it would be a bit of a stretch to think that he's going to play at a level well above that this year. I think you're going to get what you're going to get from Garrett Bradbury. Dalton Reisner, assuming that he wins the left guard competition or the right guard competition, because there's competition for both. But Reisner is, I think, going into his 5th season, he has shown, I think, that he is what he is. Pretty good pass blocker, not a very strong run blocker. Can we expect him to make a big jump and play and suddenly be an all-pro type player? I don't think so. Blake Brandel, who just got identified earlier, he's been a reserve in his first 4 seasons, 3 seasons in the NFL. The Vikings have seemed to be high on his potential, and I hope that he meets that. And he shows more than maybe we've seen in a reserve role at tackle and a guard. But I think I'm not really sold on Blake Brandel being all world, above average, even if he is a starter at this point. Be happy for it to happen, but I think based on what I've seen when he has played, I'm not expecting that. Ed Ingram would be the guy, I think, out of those interior options. He is the guy that I think has the best potential to really take a jump in play and performance compared to what we've seen. He improved last year. Now he went from atrocious as a rookie to around average or maybe a little bit below, if you believe PFF rankings, and also the eye test, I think. But he's going into his 3rd year, Dave. That 3rd year for an offensive lineman.
That's the magic year, baby. Year 3.
And you ran some stats on that a couple of weeks ago, too.
I bored our fans to death with that slideshow. Yes, I got that.
But I think that Ed Ingram is the guy that if he can get to a level where he goes from average to, good, solid, maybe a little bit more than that, I think that's big for the interior. And that would give us one really solid, good to very good player on the interior that would mean that, he doesn't have to be helped anymore. You don't have to slide somebody over to him. Maybe Ed Ingram can do that for Garrett Bradbury.
And what I think is you got Brian O'Neill, who had a decent season last year, right? But it was his first season back from the torn Achilles for him, partially torn Achilles for him, not a full-blown like Akers, partially torn Achilles. I think O'Neill's going to play better this year. I think we're going to see O'Neill return to be, and I've seen some bettors wager that O'Neill will be the number 1 right tackle in the league. I could see number 2. Penei Sewell to me is probably still the number 1, and it happens to be in this division. But if Brian O'Neill gets up there as even the number 2 right tackle in the league, hell yes, baby. And if Ed takes that step, that right side's going to be beast, right? And Aaron Jones is going to be able to run off that. Ty Chandler's going to be able to run off that. Whoever's playing quarterback's not going to worry about the right side as much. I don't think they're going to worry about the left side because you got Christian Darrisaw, who's obviously one of the top 3 left tackles in the league. And it just leaves you down to Blake Brandel or Dalton Reisner playing left guard and Garrett Bradbury in the center. That's it. If you've got 3 out of the 5 playing outstanding ball and the other 2 are playing average, you've got a good offensive line in today's NFL, right? We looked this week, I sent you another article of O-lines that came out. Where's their preseason rank? And people are like, oh, our O-line sucks, especially between the tackles. It's so bad. Folks, it's bad across the NFL. In this ranking, and I forgot who I sent it by. I think it was Sharp Football.
It was Sharp Football.
It's 9th. They have him ranked 9th. That's right, top 10. And you got to remember, there was a segment of last year, they were number 1 over on Shat's DTN or whatever it is, where I grabbed the DVOA stats. It's even though we complain because we don't have Johnny Randall or Steve Hutchinson, right, or some of the better centers we had, it's a league-wide problem. And we just happen to, we complain because we want better. We feel we deserve better. I want to see an all-pro cross the line. I think that would be great. Make me happy every Sunday. But we're good compared to the rest of the league, and it's how you compare to the rest of the league. Hey there, G-Mac. Welcome to the show. Missed you, brother. Missed you. Saw you on Facebook, though. Good things. But continue. You got to talk about Ed Ingram, offensive line, and you get me all excited.
Yes, yeah. No, I don't have really anything more to add than what we have had, but I think that it's big for him to take. If he takes that next step, that's a real important development for the Vikings offensive line, for the Vikings offense, especially with the new quarterback or quarterbacks under center there. So I think it's important that Ed Ingram, and also for the future, if Ed Ingram shows that he's a solid player, then the Vikings don't have to worry about right guard and investing in free agency or the draft to get a replacement for him, as well as a replacement that they're going to be looking for at left guard, I think, within a year or two, and maybe even at center when Bradbury's contract goes. So
that's why I'm interested in see how Juergens develops. I can't wait to watch him this preseason.
Yeah. So that's the second guy. Third guy for me is at cornerback is Byron Murphy Jr., one of our big top free agent acquisitions in 2023. And he was drafted to be our number 1 cornerback, or not drafted, but signed to be the number 1 cornerback. Well, last year, I wasn't, to me, when I watched him, I wasn't like throwing my hands up in the air. I didn't think he was like Robert Tate or anything like that as far as covering quarterback, but 40s, those are long gone.
He wishes he was. So do I, for that matter.
But Byron Murphy Jr. he did not, I think, have a great first season with the Vikings. Pro Football Focus, their ratings on him had him poor pretty much consistently the whole season. And I think when I watched him, I felt that he could have played better. Now, he was playing in a situation, the Vikings, when they signed him, the talk was he's, a press corner, man-to-man, that's where that's his strength. Well, of course, we didn't do much of that defensively. We ran zone for reasons that Brian Flores will only know. And it worked. But I think Byron Murphy did not have the kind of year that the Vikings were hoping for, or that he was hoping for. Now this year, second year in a new city, second year in this Brian Flores defense. Reportedly, Flores is going to be looking to play more man-to-man. That is what Byron Murphy excels at, and that they're going to have him in the nickel inside as opposed to being outside, because they got Shaq Griffin to play that, as well as either Caleb Evans or Mekhi Blackman or
Booth
or Booth or whatever. So
pick your flavor. Or Lattimore if we trade for him. Yes,
that's right. I think that So if these are the hopes with Byron Murphy Jr., but if they become reality and he does play like the player that the Arizona Cardinals were hoping to get when they drafted him in the second round back in 2019, he was a high draft pick, highly rated, highly thought of. He's not quite played up to that level at all his pro, but if this is the year where he does that's going to be huge for the Vikings defense again, just like Grenard getting after it at edge. Byron Murphy being a true number one corner, if he can play and ball out like that, that's going to help the Vikings defense immensely. It's going to help their pass coverage immensely, which is going to help every other aspect of the defense. So I think it's big for Byron Murphy to
coverage helps pass rush helps coverage.
Yes. And he's only 25, Dave. He's actually
that surprised me.
Yeah. Now I didn't see his birth date. He may turn 26 at some point in the season, but right now he's the same age as Mekhi Blackman, who's in his second year, right? And he would have been the same. He would have been a bit older, but he would have been the same age as Khyree Jackson, pretty much. So he is a guy who's still young. There's still, I think, room for him to grow. And if he has a big year, it's great for him because his contract voids, but also I think it's big for the Vikings because then they've got a decision to make with him as well. Do they bring him back and for how long? And if he plays well, that decision is going to be a little bit harder for them. And I want Byron Murphy Jr. to make that hard on the Vikings because, yeah, because if he's playing well, then, decisions have to be made, and that's going to be good all around for the player and the franchise. But I think that's why I've got him identified. Our corners weren't really very strong last year, and it'd be nice to see Byron Murphy Jr. play at the level that some people feel that he can play at, which we didn't see last year, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Final
you
guy.
You got to remember, Murphy was drafted to replace Patrick Peterson down in Arizona. And, of course, Patrick Peterson will go to the Hall of Fame because he's that good of a corner. And Patrick Peterson came here, and Byron Murphy followed. So if he could get, close, 80% of Patrick Peterson in Patrick Peterson's prime, we'd take it in a heartbeat.
We sure did. And last year in training camp, the beat writers, there was, I think, multiple days where I saw little nuggets of things that they were impressed with what Byron Murphy was doing, the way as a technician, how he was really good at that, how he could stick with receivers one-on-one. And, it just didn't seem like that translated on the field once the regular season started. But he's got the talent to do that, I think. And this would be a good year for him to start, playing up to the potential that people felt that he had. Mm-hmm. Yes, master. Finally, fourth guy, and it's a kicker. Don't talk about kickers a whole lot, but I think in this case, Will Reichard, I think, has got a ball out in 2024. Now, I know that he hasn't won the kicking competition yet. Maybe there's John Parker Romo is in the mix, but I think it's clearly the Vikings expect that Reichard will be their place kicker in 2024. That's why they used a 6th-round draft pick on him. And hey, the Vikings they went with mediocre at kicker the last 3 years with Greg Joseph. Big leg, but you knew he was going to miss 3 or 4 or 5 extra points every season.
He held his breath even on extra points. And yeah.
And then last year he started he really struggled banging kicks through the uprights beyond 50 yards, even though he's got a very strong leg. The Vikings decided they weren't going to stick with mediocre anymore. They let him walk. He is now Green Bay's problem. But now that he is gone, you need somebody to come in there and be better than mediocre. And Will Reichard, I think, is the guy that the Vikings are pegging to do that. His college resume is impeccable. Reichard, he kicked in a lot of pressure situations at Alabama, which is basically a lot of the weeks, a lot of eyes on him, was able to bang kicks from distance, but also just make the routine kicks. He has looked, from what we have read, he has looked really good in OTAs in minicamp. And so he's got a strong leg. He's shown that he's accurate as hell. if he can go into, we need him in 2024 as a rookie, and it's a pressure cooker as a rookie, as a kicker, because you only get 2 or 3 opportunities a game to do your job. And if you don't do them, everybody notices. Not like if you kind of slightly mess up on a pass block sometimes.
Right.
Somebody can cover for you for that, a running back, somebody else who's chipping on you. But as a kicker, if you miss your field goal, it's clearly usually
It gets
on
noticed.
you.
We see.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but if Reichert is a guy who makes the 50+ yards kicks routinely and the routine kicks routinely, he will solidify a position that I don't think has been solidified since Gary Anderson got kind of run out of town, in the late 90s.
I left.
And you could probably throw Blair Walsh in there too, who after he missed that kick against Seattle, got the yips like it was nobody's business, and he got run out of town too. So I think I have high hopes.
When it comes to him, I heard they figured out after the fact what caused him. Well, what went wrong in his swing.
Mm-hmm.
And of course he fixed it after the fact. Yeah. And become one of the greatest kickers, or one of the best kickers in the NFL. But hey.
Oh, I think you're talking about Carlson.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we didn't give Carlson a chance to work out his.
The 3 missed field goals up in Green Bay and gone.
Yeah. And that was it. But it's safe to say that won't be happening with Reichert. I think that Kevin O'Connell will have a much more patient approach, but I don't expect that Reichert is going to have those issues just based on, you never know with kickers, like they get the yips periodically, and you hope they don't last for too long. But if he can do what he did in college at Alabama and what we've heard he's been doing in OTAs and minicamp, we'll find out more in training camp, because he's going to be viewed more and seen more and on the spot more. And we're going to be hearing about how they did 7 kicks from 40 plus and 10 kicks from 50 plus and what his average was. But he's a guy, I think, that in a year where the Vikings offense might not be scoring as many touchdowns as maybe we would like, and they're going to need to maybe kick more field goals and have those field goals be successful, I think it's important that Will Reichert is the right guy at place kicker for the Vikings and balls out in 2024.
Yeah. You can't, as much as, the rest of the football world thinks kickers are weird and they're not real football players, they score a third of the points easy every season. Yeah. And you want them scoring, at least that, if not better. It'd be nice if all they scored was extra points, but anytime you can put points on the board, put them on the board. It helps so much. So, and I think Reichert, we hear the stories how, since he was like 5, he wanted to be a kicker or whatever the age was. It was young, and he went to kicking camps as a young kid, and he absolutely starred. And then he goes down to the biggest pressure cooker in all of college and just sets records. I've always been, you do not draft a kicker. You can get them as UDFAs, you can trade for them, whatever. You do not do that. I think we may have found the guy. The first one since Gary Anderson was clutch. And we'll go from there. And it's something, if you're a golfer, it's the club you want to have in your bag. You don't want to use it all the time. It may be that pitching wedge, right? But if you're deadly with it, God, it can save you strokes. A good field goal kicker, if you're deadly with it, can win you football games. And it could be the difference between you're going to the playoffs, you got the first seed, or you're sitting there going, all right, let's start looking at prospects for the draft.
Yeah. And I can't recall, Greg Joseph, to be fair to him, he won us a few games with his leg. I can't recall him really ever costing us one, but
he caused heart attacks.
Yes, I sure felt that bill was coming due if he had remained our place kicker.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the four, and thanks to folks who gave their opinions on who they think are some players beyond the four that I identified that are playing well. Them playing well is going to be key to helping the Vikings have a successful 2024 season, which we all want.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we do. We're not playing this year for next year's draft. We're playing this year to win.
That's right. Now, the quarterback of the future has been drafted. Let's move on.
So it is what it is. Well, I want to thank everybody that's joined us today. It's been a great crowd. We'll cut a bunch of the regulars, and I'm hoping you're having a great weekend this weekend. I know it's been crazy, but please take the mental health, enjoy the Vikings news, and know that in 7 days we have the rookies reporting to training camp, and we're going to have some real football starting up. We look forward to those stories that come out of camp. Now, this week, like I said earlier before Darren came on, there's a possibility of the Lattimore trade. If that comes up, we'll go live. Tyler and I will go live, obviously, and we'll talk about it, see how that goes. There's also the two things that still need to be done. Dallas Turner needs to sign his contract, and J.J. McCarthy needs to sign his. And so, depends how that goes, whether we'll go live for those, or they may happen next Sunday as they come in and report in, and then, 2 hours later, we see the film coming out of Vikings.com of them sitting there signing their contracts, all smiles and laughs and good times. We'll find out.
Mm-hmm.
Darren, have you got any last words?
I do not. No, I am just like you, looking forward to the Lattimore trade news. It's news to me. I hadn't seen that, so being interested to track that one and see if that's got any legs. And
we'll see. It's
how the hell we would.
Rumor.
Yeah, how the hell? What kind of are we like trading draft picks from 2020? 2030?
Yeah, take the Timberwolves. Let's go 8 years out, even though the NFL allows only 3.
Top 5 protected or whatever. So, yeah.
Like I said, I want to thank everybody that's been here. You guys have rocked. Appreciate it. And what do we say, Darren?
We say, SKOL Vikings, baby. Thanks for watching.
SKOL Vikings.
Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and rate us on your favorite podcast aggregator. Darren and Dave, thank you for watching this episode of Two Old Bloggers. We look forward to seeing you on every show on the new Vikings First and SKOL. You can find our podcasts as part of the Fans First Sports Network. Sports takes for the fan, from the fan. SKOL, everybody!